Matt Ostrofsky is with us. He's a consultative seller, counselor, author, public speaker. He's written a book called Yikes, I've Got to Get a Job, a 6-step process on how to manage an efficient job search. So, Matt, I will turn it over to you. Thank you for being with us, and I'll let you tell people more about who you are.
Well, thank you, Jeff. Can you all hear me?
We can.
Fantastic. Well, happy Friday morning, and thank you for letting me tell my story here today. I will share the screen and start a little presentation that I hope the people find valuable. Get into that. Let me know if you see the slideshow. Is that sharing?
Not yet.
Okay. Not yet?
Nope, not yet.
No, hang on.
Something's coming up.
Yeah, I had probably grabbed the wrong button.
Yep, now we're good.
Awesome. Well, very good. Hey, folks, just want to let you know, I've been at this a long time. I've been volunteering, much like Jeff and Rosina. I've done this for a long, long time, about 20 years doing this. And I got to the point where I wrote a book. Yikes, I've got to get a job. I'm Matt Ostrofsky. I'm gainfully employed at the Timken Company. I sell bearings and power transmission products for a living, but my hobby is helping people on job search because I've been in the shoes a few times, sometimes not of my choice. Sometimes I went to other places and things happen, but I've done this so often, I said I ought to write a book about it. And I had people really appreciating the coaching and the counseling. So I kind of put this together. It's my first time I'm sharing this. This book just got out in August. I started writing it during the COVID furloughs. It's the only reason I had the time to actually put the book together. So quick, I'll talk a little bit about my background. We'll talk about the process, and I'll do a little wrap up. Matt Ostrofsky, gainfully employed at Timken. I will work my ass off in that job, but I do a lot of helping others for free. As time permits. It's kind of my avocation. When I finally retire from Timken, I'll do this full time, much like what Jeff does. I find it very satisfying. 30 years combined service at Timken and a company they bought that I used to work at called Torrington Fafner. I was 10 years away. I left of my own accord in 2007, and I left 10 years. I was at 6 different employers for a variety of reasons, always in technical consultative sales, carrying the bag. Sometimes I left to go to new opportunities, and we had great runs and got promoted, wanted to try other things, and other times those other things didn't work out. So I've been with outplacement services, and I've worked with volunteer groups. I find some of the volunteer group assistance to be as good, if not better, than what you get from these outplacement services. And the other thing in my career, I learned it's not all about the money. You really got to like what you're doing. You got to like the people you're doing it with, and you've got to really get in that zone. And I'm blessed to have boomeranged back to my legacy industry and my legacy employer. I'm finding many, many people are doing that. It's a trend that I'm seeing now. Why I wrote the book? Hey, the resume, the LinkedIn, and Jeff said it earlier, they get the phone call, but the interview gets the opportunity to tell your story and get an offer, and the offer can be negotiated. There's all kind of phenomenon and tips that you can learn and share. It's what I would ask a lot of people to do. The book kind of the big payoff in the book is to, now that you've gone through the learning curve and you're gainfully employed, to share your stories with others, and it's a good way to keep your network active. I was in the shoes. I got laid off from Ingersoll Rand in 2010, and I said no one's going to out hustle me in job search. And I started applying like a fiend, working until 1, 2, 3 in the morning. Got little responses, little interviews. I occasionally get an interview, and nothing would happen. Got left at the altar. Oh, you're great, but we went in another direction. Or worse, which many of you I'm sure have experienced, everything's going along swimmingly, and then all of a sudden the communication just stops, which just really stinks. But it happens a lot, especially with the recruiters. One day they're your best friend, and the next day they're not returning calls because the opportunity has passed. They went in another direction, and it's kind of brutal. But a lot of times they just don't even circle back and let you know what's happened. So it's kind of I'm here as a shoulder to lean on through these experiences. Hey, I've been fired, I've been downsized, I've been in jobs where I was underutilized. The pressure cooker that we're in, the paycheck stops, but the bills keep coming. And I remember when I got downsized, not even go around, I had just been part of the biggest win in the industry I was at. They were starting to go through layoffs in 2009. I got through 2 layoffs, and they were laying off their rock stars, their senior people, but I figured I was safe because I was kind of new to the company, probably at a better price point, had this big win, and I got whacked. And I realized, yikes, I got to get a job. So I went to town. And guess the thrust at this point is, regardless of how you got here, it's irrelevant. They're just making business decisions. And that can be based on performance. That can be based on, macro industry phenomenon. You guys mentioned the solar plants closing down. We're in Georgia. The North Georgia territory manager for Timken, and the battery companies are for the EVs are starting to lay off. The whole EV thing, I think, is just completely out of control and overblown. And they're starting to see that now. More investments coming, but right now the plants are making a lot of scrap, and they're laying off people. I firmly believe that we're all gifts from God. You are a gift from God. You've got a unique, valuable body of work, skills, competencies, and interests, and you got to find where they're appreciated or valued. The number one thing to do, really, outside of networking, is you really want to do the research and find out where your background, your experiences are going to pay off. And I noticed a lot of people in the video there in the meeting are folks with legacy career experience, and that's tough. You get to be my age. I'll be 64 tomorrow, and when you cross the Rubicon of 60, it just becomes very difficult to get picked up as an at-will employee. But that doesn't mean there aren't great opportunities to consult. And the book writing experiences started me down the path. I had to open up a consultancy, which I'm not actively pursuing right now, but it's something that I would encourage some of the people, if you can't get the at-will opportunities, to maybe go ahead and start a consultancy. Again, you've got a unique set of skills and experiences, and the big thing is to find out who needs what you bring to market, and then once you get landed and you're gainfully employed again, help other people. We've all got one life. Let's make it count. Getting into the book now, the 6-step process. The first part of the book is an introduction, and it really is introspection. It's much like what color's your parachute. It just asks you to kind of deep dive and think a little bit about what your core values are, 10 things you're grateful for. And I do this in the introduction to help people start to deeply dive into their career and recall some of the events and things that they had and successes, and then start to frame them in, and literally pencil to paper stuff. There's little blank forms in the book. You start to feed this stuff, write this stuff down, think about it, and then start to do an inventory of your skills, your competencies. And I think what's really important is your interests, things that you do that could become possibly a career. But it's really the time to think and be introspective, and the book kind of lends itself to that. And one of the big nuggets, the book's full of assignments and nuggets. They're called Yikes nuggets and Yikes assignments. But one of the nuggets is to do more research than just blindly applying online. I found that can be a big false sense of achievement, blindly applying online. And I remember thinking well, I can kind of do that job. I wasn't qualified, but I could start to see myself fitting into something like that. And man, you've got to be really, really critical of yourself. Do you have the background? Do you have the education the job descriptions requiring? If you don't have that, just move on. You're just not going to get through the filters, and we'll talk about that. So, question for the team down there. If Jeff, there's a way that maybe the folks could answer this. I'm curious. What's the number one thing people should be doing in job search?
I guess networking.
Amen. Absolutely.
Decide what you want. What else? Anybody else? Researching.
Well, I agree with those answers. I think the number one thing to do is networking, and that's call and speak with people that know you and know what you can do. The second part of that, I touched on it earlier. It's the research. You're better off doing more research about opportunities and companies, and actually preparing for interviews, which I contend you're interviewing the company, the culture, the people, the products, as much as they're interviewing you. But yeah, networking is super important. The stigma of, oh my gosh, I got laid off or I got fired, it doesn't carry the negativity that it used to, I think, 30, 40 years ago. A lot of really good people get swept out. These big companies, the fastest way they can adjust the bottom line is to reduce headcount and inventory, and people just get jettisoned. And it's a shame, but that's just how things can be. But the first part of the actual 6 steps now, it's this time to do some thinking. And if you're religious, pray. If you're not that way, maybe this is a time to do some thinking about, maybe you should get a little closer to the big guy, and just give some thought to a prayerful consideration of where you're going in your life. But I think, we're all 1 in a million. We have this body of experiences. And if you think about it, it's really statistically a heck of a challenge to find the right opportunity, culture, challenges that are going to draw on your background. It's like, you just got to do a lot of research and a lot of networking and a lot of talking to people. I think it's just a good time to do some reflection about your life lessons you learned from your family and your job, things you picked up at school, and think about your tools as tools in the toolbox. What are your interests? Where do you want to go with this stuff? And what do you do that maybe today you're not getting paid for, but you could get paid for? In some respects, that one of the things that I ended up doing in my career is I always did consultative technical sales, and I sold aircraft brake material, machines to inspect metal parts, and I've come back into electronic locks in the higher education industry. Did a lot of interesting things, but I came back down to the industry. I'm a mechanical guy at heart. I went back to bearings and PT, mechanical stuff, and I was blessed to get back in with Timken 6 years ago, and I'm going to ride off into the sunset today. By the way, I'm on vacation, so this isn't I'm not double dipping or anything. Step 2, the resume, super important. I put a lot of emphasis on this. You've probably heard it before, but if you haven't, you only have about 6 to 12 seconds to have the reader of the resume say, hey, I got to call this person. It therefore must be tailored to the job description. That's keywords. It's shocking how many people that I help don't understand that the job description is peppered with keywords. And if your resume isn't aligned, in other words, if they call the customer a customer and you're talking about you work with clients, you won't get through the applicant tracking software filters on an application. There's a chance your resume would never actually be read by anybody. You do all this time keying in the resume, creating a profile, applying at a company, and if it's not optimized with keywords, and so now I'm hearing key phrases. I've had one of my buddies, Pat Flotting up in Ohio, says you ought to embed phrases from the job description in the resume if you can legitimately claim that, to make the HR people, make it abundantly obvious to the HR people that you fit what the job description is looking for. Other couple things, resume should never be more than 2 pages. You never use the word I in it. I like the chronological resume. I also stress when I help people write their resumes, it's got to be impactful. You got to use numbers, percentages, and dollars to give size and scale to your story. And the older I get, as I said, I'm in my mid 60s. I'm starting to work with more people now that are director level and C-suite people, and I get really crappy resumes from these people. I mean, they're just not. They're not tailored to opportunities. They don't use numbers, percentages, and dollars. So if your resume is a little devoid of that, don't feel bad. Just take action to correct that. And it's just hugely important. So what I was going to do now, I was just going to I'm just going to show some example resumes that have worked out really well for some people. But any questions, Jeff? Am I going too fast? Am I going too slow?
Nope, doing great. Any questions in here before we move on? No questions here. I don't see any online. Oh, wait, hold on. We got one here. Hold on.
Sure.
You're recommending not to use the word I. So is it better to have a partial sentence like led a team versus I led a team?
Yes. And led, L-E-D, not L-E-A-D, led a team. Correct. Oh, you see it all the time.
Right. Anybody else in here? Okay. Tally ho, thanks.
No, that's good. And that's the kind of fundamental stuff. It's just great to ask that, voice it, and address it. Don't worry about this. This is an eye chart, but I want you to look at the overall look of this document. This is a professional laid out resume. You'll see there's a lot of white space. You'll see it's got a professional summary. It happens to be 3 sentences high. We recommend that they're no taller than 4 sentences high. Again, you have to write that professional summary, tailor it to the job description that you're applying for. Definitely got to take the time to rewrite this every time you apply. The competencies table, I like that. That's a neat way to get increase the keyword match. And then I get into experience. I kind of lay it out. Again, some dollars, some numbers. You don't want to blow their minds with all kind of numbers and percentages and things to where it's nauseating. But you do want to give size and scale to the opportunity. And then this particular one ends with an education section. This is kind of a blow up of it, and it's just a mock up. It's actually a real resume that I what do you call it, redacted for the book. In the upper right there, the hyperlink to LinkedIn. That's a pretty cool thing you can do. I talk about it in the book. That's a neat way to take them from the document. They can click on that and literally go look at your LinkedIn profile, which is where the photo should be. You never put a photo on a resume. It's another thing. But anyway, the other thing I think Rosina mentioned that, you want to kind of stand out from the crowd. I try to encourage that in the professional summary, and some kind of a turn of a phrase or something that you're comfortable with that might separate you from the crowd. This particular one, I like the way this one ends with strives to pull sales through distributors by solving technical or commercial problems that create accountable value. It's all about creating accountable value. And again, no more than 4 sentences tall. Competencies table. For this particular person, they were experts in these industries. And when you're doing consultative technical selling, active listening is a big deal, asking a lot of open-ended questions. Selling through distribution, that's a big deal for a lot of companies looking for technical sales or applications engineers. The experience table, lo and behold, with all of the work I did trying to make things look good for the book, I actually have the registration of their service there, the 12 2018 to 09-22 is out of registration. I looked at it this morning when I saw this, it jumped out at me as like, son of a brick. The 07 one should have been pushed over a little farther, the one down on the line below. But I will tell you that applicant tracking software, if you write like July 2013, or December, it could choke on that. The people that I've talked to about this, they like to see numbers 07-2013 to 12-2018, that kind of stuff. And be honest, if you have gaps, so be it. They're going to do a background check and they'll see disconnected service in your background. So just be honest. Be able to explain why there might be a gap if you have a gap in the career. But again, some numbers, some dollars here to give size and scale to this person's background and the education. A little kind of the caboose on that. But again, it's super critical that if they're looking for a certain type of degree, if you don't have it, there's a good chance you'll get filtered out on that. Now, that said, if you're networking in and someone is going to give you a personal reference and they're going to vouch for you that you have the skill set and the experiences and the interest, but you don't have the degree, that in that instance, I would let that person tell your story for you. Another one, this one's a little, again, it's a bit of an eye chart. Another variant on the theme. This is actually an individual that I work with. He reached out to me to try to join Timken about 5 years ago. And I worked with him and we created this resume, and he ended up he got picked up by a machine tool manufacturer. He was flown to China for an interview. He got picked up by an outfit that I knew in Oklahoma City. And then he was repping another company that I referred him to. Great guy. Again, fake name, but the gentleman is doing quite well. And again, a little bit of sizzle here in this thing. He highly skilled automated machining system sales professional, 10+ years of experience designing custom CapEx systems that most cost effectively meet project and payback ROI requirements. We worked a long time on developing that sentence. He's expert in understanding which material removal process will be accurate, reliable, and deliver the tolerances and surfaces required for aerospace, automotive, and complex ultra precision parts made from the most advanced materials. All legit. The guy was in Wichita, Kansas, right in the backyard of Spirit Aerospace, where they make the fuselages for the 737. So he was just awesome in this space. And then we gave some color here. In this instance, we put a little descriptor about the companies, again, redacted, but we burrowed in some of the companies that he called on in here, hopefully to get their attention. Did not have a college degree. The guy was a School of Hard Knocks guy, but really knew his craft, and just a great guy, good friend now. The other thing, again, with a lot of the folks with all the experience that's in the room, there's something called a marketing brief or a one-pager. It's a different animal. And this thing isn't really necessarily tailored to an opportunity per se, but this is often, some people call it a networking document. It's a one-pager. This is an example of it. A friend of mine that I helped created this. I think this actual template was from an outplacement service, but I made a mock-up of this. Actually, this is something related to something our daughter does. But anyway, it's a little wordy, but again, you can put dollars and numbers in there and tell a story. But then it opens up to tell people what you're interested in doing, the types of companies you're considering. This talks about her roles in some productions that she was in, and some of the skills and things that she has. But this one pager is not bad for people that have a wealth of experience, and the chronological thing just doesn't fit on 2 pages anymore. So kind of the conclusion of the resume, you got to make it compelling. You got that 6 to 12 seconds to get a reaction. You got to tailor it. You got to do the keyword match. By the way, if you're not familiar with it, there's a website called JobScan, JOBSCAN.com, JobScan.com. You take the word description of the word version of the job description, the word version of your resume, drop them in, push a button, and it just spits out everything for you in seconds. Gives you the keywords, gives you your rating. If you don't have a keyword match in the 80% or above, you're probably got to go back and rewrite it and revisit it. But if you apply and you've got a 30% or less, you know, or 50% keyword match, there's a good chance no one will ever see your application. Should never be more than, oh, go ahead, question?
It's jobscan.co. It's not com. Jobscan.co.
Oh, I didn't know that. I always got it was com.
Yeah, no, it's .co.
.co. Okay, cool. Thanks for clarifying that.
Jobscan.co takes you, but or .com takes you, but yeah, it's .co.
Okay, so you're familiar with it.
About it all the time.
A buddy of mine, it's funny, a good friend of mine, and one of these schools, a hard knocks guy, just really, I was trying to get him into Timken Company, and he didn't have a college degree, so we couldn't do it. But he sent me his resume. He got whacked, and he said, and I said, I'll help you out. He sends me a 7-page resume. And I said, Sammy, 7 pages. He's like, yeah, I never get any calls. I'm like, yeah, no, of course you don't. No one's gonna, I don't care. No one's gonna read that. You got to net it out, buddy. And anyway, we helped him, and sadly, a competitor picked him up. A great guy. Never use I. We talked about that. Chronological, tell your story. Definitely tailor it. Use dollars. Use percentages. Use numbers, and of course, references upon request. Never, and no photographs. Your LinkedIn profile should have a professional photo. We'll talk about that in a minute. And you got so much real estate on 2 pages, so references upon request it's passe. Of course they're available. Of course you're going to get references. Step 3. Oh, question?
I happened to go type in jobscan.com, and apparently they finally bought that website name. So now when you put in com, it takes you to .co. So
okay,
they went. Okay, it used to be that way a couple of years ago, so they obviously must have bought it.
Well, that's cool because I talk about it as com in my book, so at least it's right.
It's fine. If you do, it'll just take you back to .co. So,
yeah. And you can do. I think you can do. You sounds like Jeff. You know, you can get like 4 or 5 attempts for free. But if you're in the throes of big time jobs, to buy a subscription, it's incredibly valuable. It does a very nice job. LinkedIn, got to keep it professional. Was it Rosina did a great job talking about that. Applying online, golly, only do that when it's absolutely mandatory. Or there's a target customer. I'm sorry, target account, target opportunity at a company. A company that you want to work at that take the time to do that. You're better off trying to get networked and have somebody, take the resume into somebody within the organization. The AI filters are designed to filter people out versus filter people in. The keyword match, we talked about it. By the way, if you ever email or text your resume, make sure you're sending it as a PDF, which freezes the registration of it. If you send it as a Word doc, it can open up and be a jumbled mess, very unprofessional. And again, you have that one chance to make a first impression, and you completely, in my opinion, you do yourself a disservice when you don't take the time to send it as a PDF. And it's an easy thing to do on your computer. Just save as and go down and find PDF, and you get a snapshot of it typically. LinkedIn photos, the one on the left obviously is poorly lit. You don't do the group photos, no red solo cups. These are just some things I grabbed off the internet real fast. That's my photo. My wife took that photo here in the house. It was for the book. And it's funny, that was like the second photo we took. We did about 50, and that second photo just worked out just great. My website, I'm employed by Timken, but I do kind of promote that I do this thing on and helping others, and the book is there in the background. But just a crisp what you do type of summary. You don't have to go too detailed, but you can hang out examples of your work if you've got permission or clearance to put stuff online. Publicly traded, private companies, it's all really a function of those experiences. How much dollars and how much detail on the dollars. I mean, you could add a little bit of some color with numbers and things. I don't do it on LinkedIn. I kind of leave that on the resume, to be honest with you. But just a professional looking website helps. applying online, again, trying to kind of burn through a lot of information here. Bear with me, first time I've done it. Necessary evil. Don't get caught up in the time trap of just keep applying. You're better off researching and finding good opportunities for you. We talked about the tracking software that filters you out. There's jobscan.com. Yeah, the other thing, if you can avoid putting a salary value when you apply, or talk about a salary, it's best if you put in, at market or negotiable, or if the system will allow you to put something other than a value in there, because you don't want to price yourself out and you don't want to leave money on the table. If the system does demand that you put in a value, and more of the systems I think are now asking for that, just be brutally honest. Understand your finances and your budget and what you be able to do, and then when you get the offer, God willing, make sure you understand the full benefits package and all of the benefits that the company can offer. Phone screens and interviews.
I've got a question. Hold on.
Yeah.
Hold on. Here we go.
I think on the salary side of things, I've heard that, you can use certain sites such as salary.com to help you out with that, like what you should be targeting salary wise. If you're if it requires you to put in a number and you're trying to find that, I think that there's resources like that out there. I think that can help you with that.
No, that's a very excellent point. There's no doubt about it. There's tons of free information on job search in the marketplace online, but that's a great point. I had a fella that I did get to join Timken, funny enough, and he was going through the application on the online thing. He got to the point where they said, yeah, you got to apply online to officially get into the database, blah, blah, blah. And he says, hey, I'm at the salary range thing, and which one should I pick? And I said, hold on a minute. And I called a buddy of mine in the organization. I said, hey, he's applying for this. What I don't want him to, screw up. And he told me the range to click, and he selected it. So again, the networking thing, invaluable. But yeah, other resources, and again, just be fair. I think those websites also do take account. The same job in liberal Kansas is probably going to pay differently than it would in New York City. And those websites are great resources for those cost of living adjustments and how those are accounted for. One of the things on phone screens and interviews, and you can probably tell I talk a lot and pretty chatty, man, answer the question that they ask and don't volunteer any more information. Be happy with some silence. Let them digest your answer. Let them write something down. Often they're going to compare notes, either if it's a one-on-one interview or the panel interview, they're going to get together afterwards. But man, I got into always wanting to kind of, beat my chest and tell my story. And it's like, man, don't over volunteer. I talk about one of the worst interview experiences I ever had in the book. Completely unprepared, completely over talked, and it was a disaster. And just be very, very focused on and as Jeff said earlier, practice. Just practice answering questions. And that pit crew is an awesome thing. A buddy of mine up in Ohio had me. When I came back to Timken, we spent 3 hours, and he's the king of tough love, former wrestling coach. And he's like, Matt, you just can't say that. You can't say it that way. And it was just, it was great, a great experience. But I will also say, have some questions for the interviewer. You need to be vetting the company, the culture, what you're stepping into. And simple questions like, how would you describe the culture? Is there anything you'd change at the company if you could? Why is the position open? Termination, promotion? I got really good at getting jobs. The mechanics of it, I got great, but I didn't do a good job at really ferreting out what I was getting myself into. And in one instance, I did drive through a red flag. A buddy of mine said a certain machine I was going to go sell wasn't ready for prime time, and he was right. That was a year I'll never get back. But yeah, And I would definitely always conclude and the opportunity to ask for the order, ask for the job. I mean, it's invariable. So practice, practice, practice. Can't stress that enough. I would dress, if you know the culture of the company, if you've done some research and you understand the look and feel, great. If no tie is required, fine. If you don't know, you're kind of going in cold. Men with a suit and a tie. Women definitely do this, the suit jacket, slacks or skirt. Make the investment in a professional look. You should be the best person walking into that company the day you interview. The best looking, best dressed person in the interview. Have copies of the resume ready. You'd have your notepad, pen ready to take notes in a folio. Writing down answers when they answer the question. It gives them a little silence. It shows them that you're earnestly taking this very seriously. We talked about don't over answer, and then I like this one. This is something I've picked up, saying at the end, is there anything that we've talked about today that requires further clarification, or anything that is a gap that would prohibit you from making an offer to me? I'd like to address it now while I'm here. Is there anything you heard that would prohibit me from being considered for the position that I can clarify while we're together? And I always say, ask for the opportunity to join the team. I'd like the job. And this is one of the things you practice when you're doing your practice. I like what I've learned today. And I want to join the team. I'd like the job. Asking for the order as a salesperson. Winding down, trying to move through the material. Step 5, negotiating an offer. Hey, the hard work paid off. On the journey, you've been blessed with an offer. In some instances, I don't know why it is, but offers can come in like rabbits. They happen, more than one can happen. You get multiple offers if you're blessed. And I think that's a function of the learning curve. You get better at this. It's my cat looking for food. And often you'll be able to buy a little time with one's gestating, and another, once they know that you've got an offer somewhere, then things speed up and you can often get multiple offers. I would always thank them for the offer, and when do they need to know what the response, what's the date? I don't think they expect you to necessarily answer, yes, I'll take the job, today. They often a week or 10 days or something. But do keep in mind, everything is negotiable, and be grateful for the vote of confidence. But this is the start of a negotiation that, based on your comfort level, you can accept what they offer you, or you can negotiate a little bit. But you definitely want to get it in writing in some way, shape, or form. I'd review it with a trusted friend or the wife, obviously. And before you leave, make sure you understand, how long the offer is valid for. But in a negotiation, something as simple as, hey, I've been working, I've been working a long time in my career. I've had more vacation. Is it possible to get an extra week of vacation or extra vacation? Sometimes it's good to say, don't even say a week. Say, hey, can I get extra vacation? They may be a day. They may give you 2 weeks. But it doesn't hurt to ask, is there anything additional they can do to help you make the decision to join the team? One of my associates he was going down the path. He had 2 offers. Funny enough, he just joined Timken in a role, and the other company gave him, I think they gave him the 6 weeks of family leave right off the bat. We gave him 6 days, and he was like, oh, and the hubbub of going back and forth, he forgot to ask for extended family leave time. So that's something to think about. Tuition reimbursement, that's a neat way to ask for additional value. The extra vacation time, we talked about it. If you're going to go on the road in some capacity, make sure you understand the travel allowance, mileage allowance. Is there any leeway there? And I always like answering or asking the question, is there anything additional they can do to help me make the decision easier for my family, to join the team? And then don't try to fill in the blanks. Just ask the question. They'll look at you kind of funny. oh, you're asking for something else. And then they'll go, if they really want you, they'll go back and they'll ask. And that often happens. They'll do something. It might not be, $1 million, but they'll often give you something because people are struggling to find good people. That's the number one problem with an industry today. They still can't find good people. Finally, the big payoff, I think the whole winning at the game of life is thank everybody that helped you through the process, offer to help others in job search. It can be a very lonely, frustrating, depressing time, frankly, and coach them up, share your experiences with them, be a shoulder for them. And I find it's a great place to be. It's a good frame of mind. Mentally, it's a good place to be physically and spiritually. And I call it psychic income. Enjoy the feel good stuff. Not going to pay the bills with it, but it's a pretty cool thing. So that's the wrap. I think we hit everything here in our agenda, and this is kind of the wrap up. Yeah, just some of my thoughts. I just think everybody has a lot of value out there, and it's just going to take some time to find the right opportunity. Especially as I saw in the video when we started, there's a lot of senior people in the room, and it's just that much trickier to find opportunities, but they're out there. You just got to do the research and the networking. So with that, thank you for your time and attention, and blessings to all.
Matt, thank you very, very much. A couple questions that popped up in the chat window. Keisha asked, how do you manage the salary value question? So you're in an interview and they ask you something. What do you like to say?
My answer on that one is, hey, I know you guys are a top flight company. I've done my research. I know some of the people that work with you, and you pay a competitive wage. If you're interested in me joining the team, please make an offer, and I'll tell you if I can accept it.
All right. And then Eric put on here, if you believe glassdoor.com, salary ranges are listed for different companies. One of the other things we tend to recommend is the Bureau of Labor Statistics. An answer that I tend to give out is when they ask salary questions. Well, according to the Bureau of Labor and Statistics, this position in this market, the range is somewhere between X and Y. And I'm sure that whatever your company is going to pay is fair and equitable. Because what company is not going to pay fair and equitable wages? So
exactly.
Something. So yes, it's important to do research. Any questions people have? If you've got a question online, you're welcome to unmute your mic and ask Matt. Anybody here? Questions here? Where can we find your book at?
It's actually on Amazon. And then that if you're still showing the presentation, there's a website that's out there, and it's Yikes, I've got to get a job.com. No exclamation point, no apostrophe, but that phrase, Yikes, IVEGOTTOGETAJOB.com actually will take you to the website, a little bit more about the book, the process, and there's a link to go to Amazon there. Again, I'm not trying to sell books. This is my avocation. It's a hobby. Some people buy an old Mustang or Corvette to work on. I spent $6,000 on getting a book published, and I think I've sold like 70 of them. And I think I get, I don't know, $2.50 or $3 a copy. So this is not about making a new career selling books. Down the road, who knows? When I hang it up from Timken, I may do some consulting. As I said, I had a form of consultancy to kind of route the money from the website into some account. Big learning curve there for anybody considering becoming a consultant. But down the road, I'll probably do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same reason I wrote a book is I had this information in my head. I just had to sort of get stuff out so I could put more stuff in. So, you're just doing a brain download. We're doing a brain dump. So yeah, it's.
And I bought your book. Well, a few years ago, I bought your book and looked it over.
Yeah, thank you.
And yeah. This Yikes is about 191 pages. I mean, there's a lot in this book. And again, the only reason I had any time to put this together is we got furloughed 2 weeks for like 4 months in a row in 20 due to COVID. So I finally said, screw it. I'm gonna try to frame this into a book, and was able to do it.
Okay. Any other questions? Last chance.
Yeah, I get a question. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mark.
Yeah, I'm totally confused about the using what format to put the resume in, whether it's Word or it's Adobe. And the reason I say that is I started my journey two weeks ago when I got laid off, and I've been to a lot of different training classes. Some of them run by the government, and some of them run by organizations like this. And there's always a lot of discussion about ATS will not take Adobe, and some people say ATS prefers Adobe. And then I hear this morning, which was good to hear, it can scramble the word if you don't save it as Adobe. So that's another aspect I have to consider. What's the truth behind it?
That is a very, very good question. And if anyone in the room's gone down the path where you're applying online, some of the systems will take the resume and bucket it by the jobs, by the assignments based on the dates listed. And I think those systems in the main, they parse out Word documents easier than an Adobe PDF file.
Okay.
That said, you may, in some instances, and I'm thinking back now, in some instances, you may actually do both. You may need the Word document when you drop it into the database so it can parse it out and help you build the profile. But then if you submit it or email it to somebody, I always send it as a PDF because
Okay.
I don't know, there's some kind of statistics that will tell you more often than not, that thing will be looked at on a phone. That resume will be looked at on a phone or an iPad. And if you send the Word doc, the registration gets all jumbled up. But if you send it as the Adobe PDF, it's going to come out like the frozen image that a PDF is, and it looks really cool, just the way you wanted to you way you're intending to send it, the good professional look.
Okay, perfect. This has been a really good presentation. Thank you.
Mark, I think there's two things here. Number one, there's well over 300 different ATS systems out there. So every ATS doesn't work the same way. Some can read PDF, some can't. It usually says what it will accept for an upload. If it'll accept a PDF, you can upload a PDF. If not, you've got to use a Word document. Also, we did an experiment in this group, must have been 10 years ago. I had everybody in the group email me their resume, and then we popped up on the screen. The only 3 resumes that were read that we could read exactly as they were sent were the 3 that were sent as a PDF file, because your Word document will get manipulated depending on the printer that's hooked up to that computer or phone or laptop, whatever. So everybody's printer is a little bit different, and it's going to make the margins a little bit different. And that's why the registration and everything gets messed up. So as Matt said, if you can send a PDF, always send a PDF, because it's always the way it's going to be. Now, Recruiter, though, they're going to want a Word document because they want to strip your header information off so that people don't see what's going on there.
Okay, thank you.
2 more comments here. Hold on.
Yeah, on the registration, I noticed the resume that you had in your presentation had very narrow margins. And the rule of thumb I've always heard is you shouldn't have narrow margins because it can affect the registration.
Yeah, I am guilty of going with narrow margins to pack more information into 2 pages. I think sending it as a PDF, though, all the content will be displayed as a PDF. That's my experience with it. But I learn every day doing this work with folks. But I do try to keep it to 2 pages, that's for sure.
Another question, Craig Ledgerwood here. So with applicant tracking systems, it's been a point of confusion for me. You go to a lot of company websites, they have the text you enter in the work experience boxes, and you'll upload the resume and it'll try to auto-populate that. Many times you edit that to make it look a little bit prettier, get the content that you want. I'm sure the work experience boxes are searched by the applicant tracking system that the company has. But then when you can also include the resume as an attached document when you create these profiles with companies and leave it sitting there, do the applicant tracking systems actually Do they search the attached documents as well, or do they only go through those work experience boxes? I've never been able to get a straight answer from anybody on that.
Yeah, that's a good. Yeah, I actually don't know. I think it probably goes something like this. I've heard this stories from some of the HR people that some of our groups up in Ohio. I was involved in 5 of these volunteer groups in Ohio at one point, and they had one of them, the North Canton Executive Networking Group. Shout out to those guys, good friends, good people. They have HR people come in and they have a panel. They do it a couple times a year, maybe 3 times a year. Just HR people come in and they talk about how their worldview looking at applicants, and they talk to the group. But I think what happens is the software is looking at that stuff that gets populated when it bursts the resume and it starts, as you say, pretty it up, Craig, and you make it look good. And then if that information based on keyword match and other criteria, the right education, the right boxes checked, that gets put at the top of the line where somebody in HR actually looks at it, and then they're going to go, okay, let me go look at this person's resume, and then they would go look at the PDF and actually read it. So the applicant tracking software, it's a screening software, it's a filtering mechanism to serve up candidates, not wasting HR's time with people that aren't qualified or don't have the right background. So it's probably a little bit of both in my background, but Jeff, he looks like he's got a lot more experience. I didn't know there were 300 of such systems. So,
Well, I think the top 90% of the companies use one of the top 5, but it's all those little companies that are using something different. And you're probably got a better chance of getting a job at one of these little small companies than trying to find, working for a big mega company. And then the stockholders say it's time to lay people off and out you go. So I don't know. I always encourage people to don't forget the small companies that are out there, because great opportunity to do more things at a smaller place. I've got a hand up. Ava, you got a question?
Yeah, on one of the sample resumes, you talked about that 4-line summary at the top, and you mentioned you worked to get it really tight, but do you have any suggestions on how we can improve that?
Number one thing there is it's got to be written. You got to think about, okay, my audience is going to be often at the bigger companies, often somebody right out of college. It's an entry-level HR job. They screen applicants. So you've got to spoon feed that. That professional summary has to be so tightly written to the job description. That person has to go like, oh gosh, this Ava's got the right background. I'm calling her. I'm setting that one aside. I'm going to call her. So all I encourage there is just write that as again, you got to be intellectually honest with yourself. Do you really have the chops and the background that they're looking for? But just tailor that professional summary to each job description. That's my best advice.
All right. Any other? Oh, another question here. Hold on.
Common actually, but don't forget there are certain tools you can use, like to find target companies, such as one that's commonly talked about at most groups such as this, called Reference Solutions. As you can use a tool like that and filter out certain companies. Could be about like what type of company it is, and like even how many employees that those companies have. So that's a way, you could find some of those smaller companies that you're just thinking, oh wow, I've never heard of this before. So I need to do more research on this because I think it could be a good fit.
I think that's a great comment. I know in Ohio, I met a fella and he found that Case Western Reserve listed the top 100 fastest growing companies in Ohio. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go target companies. That's going to be my target list. And he went through there and he got picked up by one of the companies. So stuff, yeah, there's so much information out there. Goodness gracious. But yeah, good comment. Reference Solutions. I've jotted that down to look at that.
Yeah, there's two things that I actually brought here. The Dallas Morning News 2 weeks ago published a top workplaces. It's their 15th annual list, small, medium, and large. And then a couple of weeks before that, the Dallas Business Journal did the exact same thing. So I've got both these here. If anybody here wants to take a look, you're welcome to look at it. Do not take it home, but you're welcome to look at it so I can bring it back again in 2 weeks. So, check that out. Those are some, great resources because you want to work for a company that treats their employees well. Well, right here is 100, a bunch of companies listed. Dan, I see you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you very much. I'm a fellow Northeastern Ohio guy. I'm 68 years old. I was laid off in April. I have been on probably, over a dozen interviews, and I often get to the second and third interview and then things fall through. And then recently I was offered a job for about a third of what I normally would make. And I'm thinking about taking that job just because I need something, some sort of a transition type of work. And I just wanted to ask about your opinion about that. And then I'm thinking about going to some consulting. I do Lean Six Sigma continuous improvement work. And I'm thinking maybe I could get into some consulting. Thanks.
I think you're better if you can make it work with that third less comp. You're better off working and continuing looking. You're better. It's just there. In my opinion, you're better off doing that. Again, and to the whole theme of all this, the number one thing to do is to network. So if you're working and you're in that space, I mean, you're going to be exposed to new people to talk to. That could easily lend itself to doing some consulting work, which at your stage of career, maybe that's the best way to go. It's funny. I talked to a guy at where I went to undergraduate college at, and he runs an insurance business, a manufacturing company, and he's a career coaching guy. Can't you get just one of these amazing individuals? Name escapes me right now, but we got on his calendar at 9:30 on a Saturday morning. We talked for a half an hour, right to 30 minutes. One of those guys. And he said, man, he goes, Matt, with what you do, you ought to just, whenever, when you're ready, you can hang the shingle out and you can charge people $350 an hour and your calendar will be filled up and you'll be able to do as much of that as you want to do. And I was like, you got to be kidding. He's like, no. Because once you get established and you get people that know you and know what you're doing, he's like, he said, you'll be shocked at what you could do in this consulting role. So I would very much encourage you to go down the path. Do you have the LLC? Do you have all that established already? Yeah.
I do.
Okay.
But I really don't understand how to get my name out there and start consulting. I have friends who have left the business, have started consulting companies. Actually, for a couple of months at the beginning of the year, I worked with them, and then they lost business, and so I wasn't working anymore. I was working as a contractor for them. But anyways, I'm just wondering how would I'd rather stay local and help businesses in Northeast Ohio. How do I go about getting my name out there? I wonder.
Yeah, I'm figuring that out on how to market this book, to be honest with you. But again, it's not my full-time job just yet. When I hang it up in a few years from Timken, I'll go down that path. Best advice: networking, word of mouth. Talking to people that know you, know what you can do is by far and away the most valuable thing you can do with your time. And people hear that and they freak out. Well, they start going to their phone. Pick 3 or 4 names. To get people to answer the phone nowadays is such a challenge. And we talk about leaving a professional message, a quick, succinct message, repeating your phone number at the end, and stuff like that, depending upon if you're going to a cell or a landline. And oh, by the way, greetings on your cell phones. Anybody out there looking or running a consultancy, always take the time to put a greeting on there. You can just say your name. You don't have to wish them a great day and all that stuff. But at least, especially for recruiters that don't have you in their phone, when they get the greeting, they're like, oh, okay, I did get Ava, or I did get Dennis, or I did get Fred. So yeah, definitely greetings on the cell phone messages is pretty important.
So Dan, I've got a question for you. You said you've made it 2 or 3 interviews deep and or 2 or 3 interviews into a session and then you don't land, you don't get the job. Have you done a practice interview with the practice interview team? Because
I haven't. I've watched many of them, and but I haven't done an actual practice interview.
I would do that because I think what'll happen is, and I've seen, I've done over 120 interviews. Walt's done hundreds of them here. Well, yeah, I think he's in the 1,000 mark, Walt said. So, if you haven't done Walt's workshop, I would do Walt's workshop because he will tell you exactly what to say. And, do a practice interview, and you need to practice more than once because we found that if you're making it, you're getting the interview, it's because you're experienced. You're not getting picked probably because there's something you said, or they went, well, I think he doesn't fit with what we're talking about. Let that practice interview, let them know that this is why you want to be interviewed. You're making it this far. You're not making it to the yes stage. And, they'll conduct an interview just to more see if you want to fit versus, you're qualified, because obviously you're qualified because you're getting the interviews. So,
one thing I'm often asked is, where do you see yourself in, 3 to 5 years down the road? And, I can't honestly answer that because the 3 to 5 years down the road, I'm not going to be working there anymore. So,
well, and neither will they. It's a good chance they won't be there either in 3 to 5. I think that's a ridiculous question nowadays because nobody's.
Yeah, but it's a common one. I got a second level interview last week, and I think that's what cost me the opportunity. Was I was asked the same question. I'm 60, so my honest answer was, will I be here in 10 years? Probably not, but I will certainly be here in 5 with more responsibility. And I'm pretty sure that was the one that killed it for me.
Yeah, you know what? I mean, let's face it. There's a lot of gray beards in the crowd, and it is what it is. I will tell you that I think with 2 things, especially as an at-will employee, that a lot of companies have a hard time hiring people north of 60 just because of the whole medical piece. Hiring somebody and then terminating somebody, it's a pain in the ass. What I would do though, I try to not define stuff. I'd say, hey, my plan is to work as long as I'm creating value for people and I'm enjoying it. I'm not even thinking about retirement at this stage of the game. I think I have a lot to. I bring a lot to the table. You frame it as you see fit, but I wouldn't say necessarily. Was it Mr. Mark Bamford? Yeah, I'd just say, hey, I'm going to work as long as I'm enjoying it and creating value, and that could be several years, and try to kind of leave it ethereal, leave it undefined. The other issue is when they start talking to us senior experienced people, they're seeing dollar signs, right? And I just come around and say, hey, I'm open to suggestion. I've come to the stage of my life. I still enjoy work. I realize it's not about the money. If you're interested in my skill set, please make an offer, and we'll have the discussion from there. Kind of always leave it open-ended. I have said it's not all about the money. That phrase, that theme is kind of what I would suggest with the folks that have the, on the north of 60 crowd or around 60. I would just say, hey, I enjoy it. I derive a lot of satisfaction out of it. I want to work. I have to work. Like if you went through a divorce or something, and you just let them know I'm hungry. And if you see value in what I bring to the market, make an offer and we can talk about it.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and thank you very much for your advice on the pit crew advice. Thank you very much.
You can come to the workshop too. It's free, Doesn't cost you. Okay. There's a couple of motives that I see behind that question. One is, do you have growth mindset? Are you looking for future positions? And so maybe that's to a younger generation type motive. And then the other one is, where do you see yourself as are you going to be here long? So amongst the suggestions that are offered, which you have to tailor to say, well, which one do I want to choose depending on that situation, is the option of saying the motive behind it may be that you're going to leave. And so one option would be to say, I've come to this job in this company and I am fully committed to this role and to this company, which says, I'm not going to leave soon. I don't have that. You don't have to mention years. So that's one option for you. And then there's the comedy answer that says, 5 years ago, did you know that you would be here where you are today?
Right.
Hey, Walt, I got a question for you. What about these folks with all this experience? What about saying something along the lines of looking forward to, sharing my experiences, mentoring people over the next several years? Is that a track or is that a trap?
Another option, and sure, that might be something you say. Think of why they're asking the question. What's the motive behind it? And if we can discern what that motive is, then we can talk about, yeah, I enjoy doing this job. This is what I want to do. This is what I'm committed to doing. Something that says that. And you can say it in several ways. Is I love this job. I like mentoring people. I like using whatever it might be. But the idea is to answer the motive. If you can discern what that is, that would be the primary response in my book.
Okay, thank you.
I had a question. You mentioned that sometimes companies will see an older worker and they see dollar signs. A way to get around that is just say, I'm aware of what the salary range is for this particular job, and that's acceptable to me. If you're coming off $100,000 job and you're applying for a job that pays a maximum of $50,000, they have cause to be concerned. But if you let them know that you're aware it pays $50,000 and that's acceptable, then it takes that issue off the table.
Okay.
All right, anybody else? Well, Matt, thank you very, very much. I think it's great information. Here's, let me pop this back. If you want to connect with Matt, you're welcome to do so. If you connect with him on LinkedIn, be sure to send him a LinkedIn note. Very, very important. So, Matt, thank you very, very much. And have a great weekend. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
Likewise to everybody there. God bless. And thank you for your time and the attention today. And I learned a lot. I learned a few things myself. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And did you say this is the first time you've presented on this?
Yes.
Yes.
First
Okay.
time.
Well, I think it was a good job. Very good. People here are very.
Thank you so much.
Very,
I
very
appreciate that. You made my day.
time.